Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Wine, Repeat, a podcast for all you wine lovers who, if you're like me, just cannot get enough of the good stuff. I'm Janina, your host, brand ambassador, wine educator, and sommelier. So stick with me as we dive deeper into this ever-evolving, wonderful world of wine. And wherever you are listening to this, cheers to you.
Hello, wine friends, and welcome back. So, after such a phenomenal episode on Nebbiolo in episode 248, I just knew we had to go deeper into Piemonte. Because as much as Nebbiolo's success deserves every bit of applause, it does actually mean that many drinkers are completely unaware of the incredible indigenous varieties that also share this region. So, get ready to discover some names that might be brand new to you. We're going to talk about a grape variety dubbed the white Barolo, one others have dubbed a baby Barolo. We'll talk about the sommelier's secret weapon, that's Pelaverga. You're going to receive some winery recommendations, some wines to try, and who you absolutely need to go and visit in this region. And you'll also hear from my wonderful guest, Agnese Gintere, about her personal thoughts, her emotions, and why she believes the Langhe is such a magical place. Now, spoiler alert, she is completely, hopelessly in love with Nebbiolo. So whether she wanted to or not, I very much twisted her arm to talk about these other varieties for your benefit, even if her heart was quite clearly back in Barolo the entire time. So sorry, Agnese. Agnese is one of the leading wine experts in the Baltic states with 19 years in the wine industry. She was the first female winner of the Latvian Sommelier Championship. She's currently a Stage 2 student at the Institute of Masters of Wine, alongside many other things. Agnese has one of the largest wine education platforms on YouTube called No Sediment, with nearly 40,000 subscribers. And you'll also find there her No Sediment podcast, which has some of the wine world's most respected voices on it. Now, before we dive in, I want to set the scene a little. The Langhe sits southeast of Turin in Italy's Piemonte, which is this rolling landscape of vine-covered hills. You've also got hazelnut groves. And this is where you've got altitude, aspect, and soils that really kind of shift super dramatically from village to village, and even sometimes from one side of the hill to the other. It became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2014 for all of that cultural landscape. Now, the capital of the Langhe is Alba, and this is where the Wild Truffle Fair is held from October to December each year. It's a city built atop Roman ruins, and there's medieval towers. Now, the climate, it's continental, but it's moderated by altitude and autumn fogs. You have warm summers that really build the ripeness, but you have cool nights preserving acidity, very long autumns that allow that slow ripening to happen. Now, within the Langhe, the key regions to know include Barolo and Barbaresco, but you have Roero just across the Tanaro River, then Dogliani to the southwest, and of course, the broader Langhe DOC in general. This is really a playground where there's the more famous but also the lesser-known varieties thriving together. So pour yourself a glass, settle in, get ready to discover those less-known varieties, and enjoy the episode. So how about we start with why are we talking about the Langhe wine region? So when I asked you what was a wine region that you wanted to focus on, you chose the Langhe. So give us the coolest or the most surprising fact about this region. I mean, why do you love it? Why should people come and visit this wine region?
I mean, there's so many things, actually. When I was thinking about this conversation and I thought about my first time when I traveled there, I realized how really recent actually the success of all these wines are. I think we now live in an era where we think of Barolo and Barbaresco as one of these classic Italian, great red wines. But in reality, it is a very recent phenomena. Nebbiolo has been there forever. It is a historic grape variety of Piemonte, but the success is really, It started slowly in 70s. Of course, it never happened. It didn't happen over, one night, but they had to invest a lot of time and, a lot of time, their energy, for wider public to recognize these wines. So I think that for me, at least, this is one of the most surprising things. And then I realized I traveled for the first time to Piemonte, to Langhe, around 12 years ago. And at that time, I was a student and I could afford those wines. I could afford those beautiful Barolos and Barbarescos. So I could explore the area and the wine styles. And of course, now many of those, top examples are out of reach for me as well. But I think that's surprising to see such a rapid growth, and of course, it is due to the fact that these wines are so beautiful and amazing in quality, and they age so well. Yeah, there's magic to them.
Well, okay, you said there's magic to them. Is it the wines that made you fall in love with this region, or is it actually the landscape, the people, the cuisine, that first visit?
Well, if it wasn't for the wines, I would have never traveled there. So, of course, firstly, it was wines. And when you taste wines, you want to know where they're from. And, when you like the wines, when they caught your attention, you want to go and see where they are grown, their terroir, their place. And yes, so the first time I went to the Langhe, and I've read so much books, and everyone talked about the beautiful fog, the nebbia. And I remember when I was traveling, I think we were traveling, my husband in car. So we had all around we traveled all around the northern Italy. And then when we started to close up to Piemonte, more and more fog would appear. And I think the early morning, we were traveling through some rural area and there were cows in the field and they were all covered in that fog. And I remember we stopped. And this is my very first photo from Piemonte. Wow. On my Instagram account. It's very poor quality, but it's a single cow all in wrapped around in the fog. And wow. It's beautiful. Yeah.
But that kind of, really epitomizes kind of what this region is climatically so well known for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, when you arrive there and you'll start to see, those gentle hills, and after every turn, you have these beautiful landscapes, and then you fall in love with the area, the terroir. I cannot tell you that I'm super excited about the cuisine. I am a girl who has lived all its life by the sea. So I am someone who enjoys, a lot of seafood and freshwater fishes. And in Piemonte, it is very much continental climate. So not a lot of seafood over there.
Okay. But listen, we are here for the wines. So how about we start talking about the grapes? Now, we've talked about Barolo Barbaresco, which, of course, where Nebbiolo is king. But what do you think are some of the real unsung hero grapes of the Langhe?
I was thinking about this question a lot. And the truth is, my heart always goes to Nebbiolo.
Okay.
I see the charm and excitement in other grape varieties, but I think that the true king and the really all the legends and stories all about it is Nebbiolo. It is so unique. It is a grape variety that you cannot find stylistically anywhere else. Some might say that, it might be similar to Sangiovese maybe in a way, because of the elevated acidity and high levels of tannins. The structure is similar, but it has such a unique character that when I taste it in blind, it always tells me that I am from Piemonte, I'm from Langhe, I am either, Nebbiolo regular or Barolo or Barbaresco. So I think that's a unique feature, and I will always admire that, because there are other grape varieties that sometimes in the blind tastings you can confuse with others. It rarely has happened with Nebbiolo.
Okay, well, so you're still sticking with Nebbiolo, but
sorry.
No. But you know the rules. I was like, unfortunately, We did Nebbiolo just only a few episodes ago. So you got pipped to the post. And so you have been put in charge of talking about some of these other grape varieties, regardless of whether they are your favorite or not. How about we start with what could potentially be dubbed the white Barolo? So I'm talking about Nascetta, and tell me if you think you would pronounce it a different way, because I actually haven't heard it actually spoken out loud. Would you say Nascetta or Nascetta?
I would say Nascetta.
Okay.
I don't know actually how is it correctly pronounced, but at least those producers that I have spoken to, they say Nascetta.
Nascetta. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And I don't know how many people actually, or winemakers actually work with it, but this is a very interesting grape variety.
I think very few.
Yeah, maybe, 10, 20. And I think it's interesting because I got to know it. I'm very happy. I got to know it like 10 years ago when there were only 3 producers working with it.
Right.
Because at that time, I was working with a producer, Enrico Rivetto, and he was amongst the first ones to start to work with it. So I got to taste this really waxy, slightly phenolic grape variety when nobody knew about it. So I also, in a way, could say that maybe I somehow seen its development over the years, because of course, when you revive a grape and you find this new historic grape variety, you might not know a lot about it. So you might not understand how it really grows, what are the yields, what it likes or prefers in the vineyard, what kind of soils. So now I think that 10 years later, I've seen better and better examples that age nicer. At some point, I thought that they are so lovely early in their age and offering this really bright stone fruit character, ripe stone fruits, and that slightly phenolic grip on the finish. But now there's also elegance to it. And I think one of the producers, Cogno, makes an amazing examples. And I'm always happy to open one of their examples as well.
Is that Elvio Cogno that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right, because they were one of the pioneers, weren't they? I think
so.
From reading back, apparently in the 1990s, there was literally a few rows left, and some of them were in Elvio Cogno's vineyard. So it is incredible. Did they tell you anything when you were tasting this grape variety about its history? Did you learn anything about it?
Well, probably yes at that time, and now I have all forgotten about it, what they have told me. But yeah, they said that historically it was an important grape variety of Langhe. I have never heard it to be referred as the white Barolo, though. But I mean, it could have the power and the structure for sure, because I think of it as a structured grape variety. Like it has a grip on the palate, like many Italian white grape varieties, actually. And there's a bit of body as well. It's not your everyday, crunchy, easy drinking white wine. I would just wanted to confess that I am not someone who knows its history that well.
No, but I think the reason I've heard it being dubbed as the white Barolo is the fact that it's now showcasing that it has some ageability, its elegance, its complexity, and the fact that when we think about certainly anywhere near Barolo, we think about Piemonte, always the red grapes come into mind. And it seems that this could be a very interesting grape variety that has kind of almost come out of extinction and as you said, apparently was kind of one of the leading grape varieties hundreds of years ago. So who knows? And so I believe that the grapes are only really grown around Novello, which is one of the hilly cru sites in Barolo. Have you seen this grape variety or heard of it being planted anywhere else?
I mean, Enrico Rivetto grows it around the Serra Lunga, and I'm quite sure that we have Braida.
Yeah. I've had them on the podcast many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they also have Nascetta, but I might be mistaken.
Okay, everyone, just Google this grape variety, Nascetta, and see what producers you can find. Definitely, as you mentioned, El Viocogno. And I know in England, I've seen Le Strette, which are also, again, as far as I believe, one of the pioneers. So they would be quite nice ones, at least, to try and find out. Well, let's go to red grape varieties. Let's stick with the most... almost the underdogs or the least known. What about Pelaverga? And I have to say, I have never tried this grape variety, but just I keep on hearing that the sommeliers in the know now are putting it on their wine list. So have you had experience with this grape variety?
A little bit, not a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely less than with Nascetta. But one of the reasons, of course, being that they're only at like 20 producers working with it currently, and like maybe 30 hectares we have of it in the area. So this grape variety, this is something that I really enjoy in my wines. I like them not to be that, only fruit driven. I understand that we like wines because they offer you fruit. That's fine. But I like when there's a bit of earthiness and when there's a bit of, forest floor or something outside of the typical floral cherry, strawberry, raspberry aromas. And I think that Pelaverga offers that. It usually has that a bit of, earthy, similarly like with Nebbiolo as well, that earthy, that herbal grip to it or element, maybe, garrigue type of character. And I think it can be very charming. Similarly as other grape varieties from Piemonte, it really well retains its acidity. So, of course, it's going to be more fashionable right now. We are looking for grape varieties that can retain their acidity without, exceeding the alcohol. And this is where it comes in and offers great pleasure, I think.
Well, I've also heard that people are experimenting. So you can have a lighter fresh style, you can have a more full body fresh style, but they're also using it in sparklings. And a few producers are even taking it off the skins as a white. This is what I've heard, not tasted, but it sounds like there's definitely a lot more experimentation with this grape variety. So it could be one just to keep in the back pocket when you go to some quirky wine bar. You might find it in some form.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I think I've also tried some sparkling Freisa, I think. But I sometimes think that maybe we should find out what this grape can offer as a red grape variety and then enter, the experimentation. It's almost like, with Picasso, when you look at his early work, it was, like a picture. And then all of a sudden, when he knew exactly, what to do and how the light works and depth works, then, he could start to break the lines. And I think that also works in the viticulture and in winemaking. Once you know so well your area, your grape varieties, then you can start to experiment with them and see where they excel the best. I don't think we had enough of Pelaverga. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Maybe. I'm going to say Pelaverga too.
I don't think we had enough of it. Yeah, of its red wines to see how well it works.
I guess at the end of the day, winemakers, they are creative. They want to experiment. But yes, perhaps they are running before they can walk with these great varieties. But you also mentioned just then that you've had a sparkling Freisa. Now, everybody listening, this is another grape variety that seems to be having quite a quiet revival. And this is effectively like the closest relative to Nebbiolo, aside from the Nebbiolo Rosé, which is kind of not quite a biotype. It's a slight different grape variety from Nebbiolo. So yeah, Freisa, have you had some exciting versions of this as a red still grape variety?
Yes, absolutely. And
not sparkling.
But to be honest, the sparkling kind of sits in my mind more prominently. I don't know why. It was by Vietti.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, for me, that specific wine just took me by surprise. That's specific, low sparkling, semi-sparkling wine, almost foamy more than sparkling. And it had that freshness, acidity, liveliness, and it was, red color. So it's so unique. And there was beautiful balance. You kind of expect from these sparkling wines to have higher acidity, so it worked there as well. And I thought it was such a food-friendly wine. Without food, it was really friendly as well, and I did enjoy it. And I think it could be grape variety for future because I to be honest, I don't know what happened really. I'm not person who really pays a lot of attention historically to things. I usually read something about what happens right now. But I mean, it is drought resistant. It is resistant. It is disease resistant. Like, what happened? Why did we fell out of love with it? I mean, it's so reliable.
I mean, from what I've heard, I think people kind of just said it was more rustic and it was kind of like a little bit more of the rustic tannic version than the Nebbiolo. And I guess ultimately, as everyone's focusing on Nebbiolo, they're just not paying attention to Freisa. And I would imagine now, as everyone is taking the time to really understand grape varieties, and you can, understand different cold macerations or different extraction temperatures, and you can have gentler winemaking, cleaner winemaking. I guess it's easier to get the best out of these grape varieties. But this is such a gorgeous. I think this could have its moment. From the few wines I've ever had, they've just had this lovely, almost like sweet spice and lovely florals like violets, and then just yummy strawberry, raspberry fruit. But yet it has the body. It has some tannins. It has the acidity. It's like there is a lot going on. But as you said, I believe there are actually two different clones. And my gosh, this is a great variety that people don't even know about. But of course, there's clones, and there's a lighter one that people are often making into sparkling, like you said, and it's just this fab summer wine. And then there's a slightly more serious clone that winemakers can focus on to make something pretty epic. So I'm gutted. I am gutted because I was tasting all of the Barolos and the Barbera wines of GD Vida at Wine Paris, where we both recently were. And everything about GD Vida for me is the most purest expressions. There's such delicacy, such elegance. Their Barolos are just the prettiest, most beautiful, energetic but elegant styles of Barolo. And they have a Freisa. They are definitely one of the producers that makes really good Freisa. And I did not try it. And I'm just kicking myself because, so anyone who wants it, it's called Kai. I know there was only so much time, so we focused on Barolo and Barbera, and it's now my fault and I have to live with that. So everybody go and get yourself Kai, Kye. That is their Freisa, because I haven't tried it. So someone listening, go try it and tell me. Tell me what you think. Oh, dear me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we need to have more grape varieties, on our wine lists and shelves.
So, okay, everyone, try a Freisa, let us know. What about a slightly more well-known red grape variety, Dolcetto? Dolcetto, I think many people who know Piemonte will have been very familiar with this, but it seems to be a great variety. Some winemakers are really backing and really believing in, and others are just like, oh, it's just an easy drinking wine, let's not pay it any attention. So what's your take on having been out there and tasted Dolcetto?
So first of all, I think it's important. I don't know how about you within your crowd. I guess everyone is well educated and they do not associate Dolcetto with anything sweet.
Oh, yes, of course. Everyone listening, little sweet one is what it translates to. Yes, little sweet one.
Well, apparently, but I was telling this to someone, and then one winemaker cut me off and he said, no, Agnese, no, that's wrong. His idea, and I don't know if that's true. I haven't checked it, because I was saying, it translates to little sweet one. And he said, in the local dialect, the Dolcetto means like gentle rolling hills. And he said that because of that, it has earned its name. And apparently in some areas, it is still referred to as Dolcetto. So maybe that's the case. But of course, we think of it as the little sweet one. So I don't know which thing is true.
Well, he needs to go and tell the internet, doesn't he? Tell the internet to change. Interesting, though.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, I would love to believe that now that Nebbiolo is getting its traction and it is becoming more popular and popular, and Dolcetto is losing ground. I would want to believe that the, best sites are not ripped off, that the best sites where Dolcetto excels, are still growing Dolcetto. But the reality is that probably within Langhe, that's not true, that the best sites, more exposure is dedicated to Nebbiolo. So it might be the case that right now it is a bit harder to find higher quality, more structured type Dolcettos, not the Dolcetto style that it is easy to drink and easy to forget, but something that really has a unique character and unique flavor. And for those maybe who are looking something more serious, I think it makes sense to go to Dogliani or Diano di Alba, where they really focus on this grape variety. I am a firm believer that, if you go to the areas where the best sites are reserved for the said grape variety, you will get the best examples.
100%.
Yeah. And of course, if you can get twice the price per bottle for Nebbiolo, you are replanting it with Nebbiolo, despite the fact that it might not be, well or the best suited site for the grape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So despite the fact that I enjoy it and I've tasted a lot of great examples, I don't think that it is that easy to find in the shelves around the world some really exciting wines. You really have to know and you really have to look for.
Well, it is difficult.
Yeah.
I think as that typical Dolcetto that you're going to find, it's fruity, it's fragrant, it has lower acidity and lower tannins, which does just typically lend itself to being chillable and drunk in the first few years. But as you said, if wineries are going to really work with this grape, you can get some phenomenal versions. And you said Dogliani, which is a DOCG. Everyone, if you see this on the label, do give it a go, because I think it's on higher hills, the cooler climate, it ripens slower. They even harvest it later. So you get this Dolcetto that's richer in color and structure and tannin, and actually, drink it 10 years later and it's probably actually coming into its best. So that is definitely an area people, I think, should put on their radar.
Absolutely.
However, I have to say, only a little while ago, I had a little bit of Pio Cesare, their Dolcetto d'Alba, and I only had a little sip because I was passing by, so I didn't have enough time to analyze it, but that was lovely. And what's really, really nice is if you're going to buy it retail, it's actually nowhere near the price of the Barolos, and it's Pio Cesare, top winery, so top winemaker. So that's it. I think if that's probably a good tip. Dolcetto d'Alba, that is where the Barolo and the Barbaresco producers, if they are doing a Dolcetto, it will be under that DOC, and so
absolutely,
you may find some top producers and you can still afford it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can have the Langhe Soul in a much cheaper bottle. More affordable bottle.
That's what I was hoping for. Thank you for helping me out. The Langhe Soul, absolutely. What about, I guess, finishing up on red grape varieties, Barbera? I mean, Barbera for me, again, they can range from that kind of really joyful, super fruity style because the tannins are just so, so soft. But then you can get some really seriously structured versions. Do you have a favorite? Do you love Barbera, or does Barbera never get a look in for you because of Nebbiolo?
Yeah, that's the issue. I do have some nice Barberas in my cellar. I cannot tell that this is not a grape for me.
Okay.
I mean, when I've tried some beautiful, like one is the single vineyard from Yeti, I know, Cogno as well. They make amazing Barbera. I mean, again, similar story as with Dolcetto. If you give it enough respect, it will give you back, everything it has, and even extra. But I think that with Barbera, there is one issue.
Oh no!
First of all, it
poor
really
Barbera.
develops
Yeah.
really high alcohols. Yeah, and I've tried wines, 15, 15.5, even 16% alcohol. And I understand what producer has tried to do, harvest the grapes at perfect ripeness, and that makes sense. I'm all about it. But maybe sometimes the balance is off for me in those specific cases. Sometimes it can develop these really rich and almost jammy fruit flavors, and you do have the acidity, which adds freshness, but as you said, it lacks the tannin to add like a structure and frame to the wine. So again, I would like to note that you really have to know your producer. As I mentioned before, they are producers who respect it and produce amazing examples. And, maybe do not overwash it with oak and because all that kind of hides the charm of Barbera. And it can have really beautiful structure. It can have that really, slightly gentle, almost prickly kind of tannin, which I think is beautiful and adds, a bit of grown-upness to the wine.
Yeah.
And while with Dolcetto, I think it makes sense that the best sites are reserved from winemakers' perspective, reserved for Nebbiolo. With Barbera, it's different because Barbera doesn't want the same soils that Nebbiolo wants, so it makes no sense. Like, let's reserve the sites that Barbera enjoys to Barbera and treat it with respect. And, let's reserve the sites that Nebbiolo prefers and treat it with respect.
But it is interesting you saying about it reaching...
Am I being too critical?
No, it's interesting that you touched on that because, you mentioned about the winery Braida. So they were on my podcast. Everyone, I'll put a link in the show notes to that episode. They were on my podcast several years ago, and they make fantastic Barberas, and they have a whole range, a selection of different Barberas. But I was turning over the bottles and I was looking at the back label, and they were 16%. I did feel that they hid that 16% alcohol. I didn't actually realize, but they are plush. They're very concentrated. And they were saying that they are now looking at planting Barbera on the north-facing slopes and changing things up, because right now, whereas I personally love a Barbera because I just feel like it's so easy to drink because of those soft tannins. As the world is obviously asking for less alcohol and the fact that temperatures are rising, they're going to have to start making those kind of changes. Otherwise, Barbera probably is really going to fall out of fashion, which is ironic. It's ironic considering that of all the grape varieties we've mentioned right now, if you take Nebbiolo out, next one, the one that is probably most loved and most drunk, is Barbera. So yeah, it's interesting. The other ones may jump in.
Well, that's absolutely true. And I mean, of course, with Braida, we are, I think, outside of our discussion area. But with Nebbiolo, specifically Barolo and Barbaresco, the sites that you must plant your wines on are the south-facing. So for Barbera, let's keep it on the north-facing sites, and I mean, it makes sense.
Absolutely. Okay, as we finish up on the grape varieties, I realize actually we would not be doing the Langhe justice if we didn't talk about the white grapes, Arneis and Favorita. So do you have a preference on both? Is there one that you prefer to the other in terms of their personalities?
Okay, so here's an interesting story. Arneis, I always loved. I think it similarly has that waxy texture, mid-body, Similarly as with Nascetta, it reminds me a bit in character those white Rhone grapes. They have a bit of phenolic grip at the finish.
Or like a waxy, like a slight waxy mouthfeel.
Yes. Exactly. They're semi-aromatic, because sometimes Italian whites can be neutral, slightly. But with the the Arneis and Nascetta, I think there's a lot of charm to it. But of course, with Arneis, we also have to know the producer, and we have to really look for the good ones, because sometimes there are people who maybe, or winemakers who maybe want to create this more easy drinking style that could offer an alternative to Pinot Grigio. I prefer my wines a bit with more structure, with more, character, with opinion. So Arneis has always been my love. I love it. And Roero Arneis, why not? Favorita is a different story, because so we might know it better under the synonym of Vermentino, if I'm not mistaken. And it has been really difficult for me to fall in love with Vermentino. And I ended up really liking a few examples from Tuscany. And I thought they had that freshness, that, that garrigue, that Mediterranean herb, like character and some saltiness to it. If you remember in the beginning, I told you that I always prefer my wines to, next to fruit, have something earthy, something else outside of fruit. I think it's so charming. And since I found these few examples of Vermentino that I really enjoyed, I have started to pay more attention to Favorita as well now.
Okay.
But of course, I know this grape more from Tuscany, more from Sardinia, less from Piemonte.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to confuse everyone, when you see Favorita here, yes, it's Vermentino, but also Piegato in Liguria. So there's just, these are all the same grape varieties, but with different names. And
yeah, it can be very confusing.
I definitely feel, my comparison is, I feel that Favorita typically has more acidity. It's crisper, it's fresher, more citrusy. But the slightly more savoury, slightly more almondy, although you can even get an almond finish on the Favorita as well. But there's that slight savoury, bitter, little earthiness that I think you get with Arneis. And both of these, for everyone listening, this is the Roero region where they both do quite well. So that's a region to explore. What is, of the whole of the Langhe, a village or a region, an area that has been your favorite place, that if people were going to go and visit, they have to go to, that's a must?
I fell in love with Serralunga. In blind tastings, I have always somehow picked out my favorite wines, or wines that I like the most. I'm not saying that they're the best. I'm saying I prefer them, like my taste buds respond to them the most. MGAs from Serralunga area. And I find it so beautiful, and especially when you go and visit Enrico Rivetto, you get to see that drop of the hill, and then in front of you, you have the Serralunga Castle.
Okay.
So for me, it is the original place where I started my wine journey with Barolo wines.
We have to point out, just as you said, for anyone going, where is Serralunga? Yes, that produces Barolo. I had a feeling that you were going to take us to the Barolo area.
Serralunga.
Anyway.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to see the vineyards from above, you go to La Morra, because then you just see all the area. And if you want to see the vineyards from below, you go to Barolo village. But I think something that we might not, pay attention a lot is the Roero. It can also be very charming, and also has these really gentle rolling hills, and it is so much more affordable and approachable. Affordable when you go there, when you visit the area. Approachable when you taste their wines, like their Nebbiolo. It is still very structured, and it is still very, firm, but it almost seems lighter bodied, and it kind of adds a bit, it just offers lightness that, maybe other side of the river does not.
Okay, but are we talking, when you're describing the wine, as in Nebbiolo, the grape variety from Roero?
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. I think that you love Nebbiolo, and I've been very, very mean as to say, no, you can't talk about it. No, I'm just not, more that I'm not asking you the questions. But For someone who does love Nebbiolo, and you've just said you like the expression that Nebbiolo can give if it's grown in the Ruero region, is there any places out of Barolo or Barbaresco that you personally think you can get the best value Nebbiolo? What would you recommend? What's been your favorite? Or is it just a Langhe DOC in general?
No, I mean, of course, outside Barolo Barbaresco, Ruero first comes to my mind. Then we have Gemma,
Okay.
Gattinara.
Okay. Going up north, much okay, yeah.
Yes, and I mean, it is surprising how very, very affordable those wines are. And the quality is not, that much lower. You maybe have stylistically slightly different wine, because I believe Nebbiolo so well translates where it is grown and what it is done with it. But so you might not feel the same power, or the same structure, but the quality is definitely there. And you pay, I don't know, fraction of the price of Barolo and Barbaresco. And I think those producers, they deserve to be recognized and they deserve to be known and pay attention to them. So I think it's important that we, maybe travel outside a little bit of the Langhe area as well.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad that you've mentioned them. How about, I'd love to know a winery visit that for you just felt so magical, truly personal, or perhaps it was just like off the beaten track. Like, if I pin you down right now, what's the first winery that comes to your head?
I mean, I almost feel guilty constantly talking about it, but it is definitely Enrico Rivetto. He was the very first one who I saw. Whenever I travel to Piemonte, I almost feel guilty contacting him because I feel like, oh my God, again, I am here, again, I'm visiting you, and again, I'm taking your time off the work in vineyards and the work in the winery. But because of him, I have learned so much. I think partially because of him, I fell in love with these wines. And so he's definitely the one. No questions asked. And now his winery is, I've done several podcasts with him. His winery is buzzing. His winery is, in different colors because there are animals, he's doing agroforestry, there are, different kind of flowers and bushes everywhere. So it is completely different experience than you would feel anywhere else in the area. Of course, I cannot not mention estates like Gaia, who, small person like me, they would host always with such a, they're spending so much time, Gaia personally, showing us the vineyards, going with us in the vineyards and tasting the wines and always sharing their time and energy. I remember the second time I was visiting Gaia, it was just two of us. It was me and my husband. And they still spend like 3 or 4 hours with us together. It was just magnificent. Like, you would not expect that kind of, time investment from such an iconic estate. Sometimes those estates are so difficult to get in, and taste wines. They sometimes feel almost unapproachable in a way, but it has never been that way with Gaia. So thank you to them as well, I would like to say. So those visits have always been very exciting and interesting. And also Aldo Conterno, like, he's also one of the legends. And similarly, I never felt that way. When you visit them, they are so down to earth. They're so respectful. You cannot buy a single wine with them, but you can taste them all. And thank you. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
I have to thank them, I guess.
Everybody, I'll put links to all of those wineries in the show notes. And if people are going to go, when do you think is the best time to go to the Langhe in the year?
I mean, I always go in November, but it is a very practical reason, because in November there's a national holiday in Latvia, so I can get extra days to spend in the area. And interestingly enough, it is the high season because maybe not now anymore, but maybe 10 years ago, it was cold enough in November, so you could start to get truffles. So for those who enjoy the cuisine, that traditional Piemontese cuisine with truffles, it is definitely worth going at the end of November, December, and January. It might be cold. You might get snow. You definitely will be covered in fog that you might not even see your hand, but in front of you. But you will get those, fresh truffles. So that's nice. But I mean, spring and early autumn is also very beautiful. Spring is beautiful everywhere, but early autumn, when the leaves start to turn red, those that are not Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo is rare, I think. Interesting. It's a red grape variety, but its leaves turn yellow. Then, of course, you have this beautiful landscape and the sun is a bit lower.
I did not know that.
Well, I might be wrong, but I think that's the way to identify it.
Interesting.
Yeah, those.
Well, thank you. There you go, everyone. Wine tip.
I would not advise to go in summer though, because it could get really, really hot. At least for me, who comes from a northern part of the Europe, plus 25 is the maximum I feel comfortable, and in the area in Langhe area it can get like 36, 38 easily. So July, not for me at least.
I agree. Early autumn. Okay, as we've covered so many of these different grape varieties. You've also, given a bit of advice on where to get some good value, Nebbiolo, and some top producers to go and see. I'm going to just finish off with a non-Nebbiolo question, which is, just out of curiosity, if you could only drink one non-Nebbiolo Langhe wine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Langhe.
Yeah.
I will cheat a little bit. I will say Grignolino.
Oh, I love that you're bringing...
Is it from Langhe? I'm not sure.
I love that you're bringing... Why? Okay, now, because we are bringing in a brand new grape variety, you now have to finish this podcast telling people why.
I mean, I really discovered it more last year when I was judging the wines for the Cantor World Wine Award. And when the flight of Grignolino wines came on, I was pleasantly surprised. They had similar structure to that of Nebbiolo, beautiful acidity. They were slightly lighter in their body and, in their appearance than Nebbiolo. But they were just so charming and lovely and easy to drink and enjoy. And of course, because it's not Nebbiolo, it does not cost you a fortune and you can easily afford it. And I think I have not tried any aged examples, but I would want to think that it can age beautifully as well. I think it is undeservedly forgotten.
Yeah, and I believe it is actually native to the Monferrato Hills, and I think we can call this a baby Barolo. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, there you go, everyone.
I would be happy to enjoy it, if not for Nebbiolo.
That's absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for just sharing a little bit of your opinion, your experience on all of these very unknown grape varieties. So unknown grape varieties, unknown territories. People really do have a lot to explore that maybe they didn't realize. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been really a pleasure.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I mean, I might not be the best knowledgeable person in this matter, but I think it's important that we do discover these grape varieties outside of Nebbiolo. There's so much more to offer.
Absolutely, 100%. And the fact that I put you on the spot talking about grape varieties that most people would not be comfortable talking about. So I love that you've let me grill you on all of these unknowns. So yes, let us share a glass of Freisa or Arneis. Well, okay, sorry, it's you, Nebbiolo. Very soon. We will have Nebbiolo. I'll speak to you very soon. You take care.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Now, as we wrap up, I would love to hear from you. Do get in contact with me if you try any of these varieties and fall in love. I want all the details. So email me at Janina@eatsleepwinerepeat.com. www.eatsleep.co.uk or send me a direct message on Instagram at eatsleep_wine-repeat. Now, sticking with this theme of lesser known varieties, what about Chasselas or Petit Arvine? Just a couple of the fascinating grapes coming out of the Valais region in Switzerland. So how many Swiss wines have you drunk? Well, next week, we're being taken on that journey by José Vouillamoz, a Swiss geneticist and one of the world's leading experts in DNA testings for grape variety origin. So stay tuned. As always, may I finish with a quote from Italian film director Mario Soldati, who said, "Il vino è la poesia della terra." So I'm not sure about my pronunciation. What it translates to is, wine is the poetry of the earth. Now, I hope today has been an invitation to maybe explore behind the famous names and grapes, because the more the wine world opens, the more personal your journey becomes. Wishing you a beautiful week ahead. Please do like the podcast, share it with another wine-loving friend, and leave a review and some stars, as all this makes the podcast far more discoverable. Until next Monday, wine friends, cheers to you.